the Y. We have teamed up with our Social Goats Talk Radio team today.
What's up, y'all? It's Billy Roy B. Cajun Boy.
Hey Cajun Boy. And who else you have sitting next to me?
Shanta's with us.
and back to our live feed, we have
Isis checking in with you guys today. We're sitting down today with our candidates. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
I'm Levette Fuller. I'm running for City Council District B.
My name is Quinton. I'm running for City Council District E.
All right. We appreciate you taking our time to sit with us and talk with us today. And so, what you say? I'm sorry. Once again, we thank you for sitting there with us. And I want you guys to start off introducing yourselves and your district that you're running for. We're just going to go from there.
Well, District B is kind of the core community, or one of the core historic communities in the city. It is comprised of Caddo Heights, Stoner Hill, downtown, Highland, and a part of South Highland, a little bit of Queensboro, and a little bit of Cedar Grove. And I have been involved in the community for about 13 years, in that community specifically, mostly out of Highland. Prior to that, I lived in California for about 4.5 years. Prior to that, born and raised here, Judson to Southern Hills Elementary to Middle Magnet to Magna High, and then to Centenary for college. And then that's when I took off to San Francisco for a little while. My background's in dance and theater. I always had an appreciation for historic preservation and architecture and also the community. So when I moved back, I saw a lot of opportunities that were being missed to kind of give Shreveport more of a character, instead of just trying to be like another suburb of Dallas or something. We've got a lot of historic buildings, especially if you go along Texas Avenue, which used to be historically a multicultural neighborhood. If you think of like Texas Avenue and Allendale and the Bottoms, that was all African Americans and immigrants, and now it's all empty for a lot of different reasons. But when I moved back here, I started thinking, well, historic preservation is taking off other places, but also what comes with that is gentrification. And if we're going to have that conversation, I want to be at the table for that. And that's sort of how I started getting back involved in volunteering in the community. And from there, I've just done a lot of different stuff. We can talk about that as we get going today. And that's kind of how I ended up right here, right now, running for City Council District B.
Okay. What you got, Quinton?
Man, she kills it. She kills it every time. Every time we talk, she kills it. My name is Quinton. I'm running for City Council District E. That's part of the Southern Hills area, Mount Zion Road, Linwood area as well. A little backstory about me, about why I'm running. If you want to know, I'm 19 years old, and that's a big stamp for that. I'm from Queensboro at the early age. I was born in Queensboro from 1 to about 8 years old. Then I moved to Southern Hills. That's how I came to Southern Hills. And the reason why I'm running, because when I graduated, I lost 6 friends in the span of 5 months to gun violence. And I had the opportunity to go to Southern University and advance my career in law, but I decided to stay home and go to BIPSI and major in criminal justice, because I just couldn't leave my city with all this devastation, especially with my friends dying like that. 6 friends in the span of 5 months, and I'm 19 years old. And I said, you know what, I'm going to take heed into this, and I'm going to put a stamp on my city. I'm going to make an impact and change lives mentally. And especially, I started working with Common Grounds, and Common Grounds had a big impact on me as well, because I couldn't leave the kids that I was working with. I work with these kids Monday through Thursday, even on weekends, and I invest in them with education and basketball as well. And I just love on them, so there's no way I could leave my city. There's no way I could leave, because I refer to my city as a dying plant. And I feel as if everybody was walking right past this dying plant, giving no nourishment, and they were just looking and they were just dying, and it wasn't ready to bloom at all. And it hasn't bloomed over 40 years since I was even born, since my parents been here. So I'm just ready to come in and make a big impact with people like Miss Levette.
See, he's poetic.
Oh man, both of y'all are so passionate. I love it. I love it.
All right, Quinton, so you mentioned that Shreveport is considered like a dying city, and economic development is a big part of that. What are your plans to get District E advancing economically?
Well, 3 elements that come from economic development would be workforce development, business development, and real estate. And those are the biggest things that it comes from, because everything that you want to have a foundation, and those are the foundation of it. And workforce development, those deal with the people. And I really feel as if Shreveport, we have missed the people in so many ways, in jobs and also in business, because with business, you're dealing with big corporate leaders. And big corporate leaders need jobs. They have jobs and they need workers, and that comes from the workforce development. And so what I want to bring to the table for Southern Hills, because a lot of people, I talked to a couple people when I went to door to door, and they said, we're just a fast food neighborhood. Because when you go down Mansfield Road, you see nothing but fast food, you see nothing but McDonald's and Sonic and all these things. But I want to bring jobs that can impact not only Shreveport, but the state of Louisiana. You know, I want to create jobs for the citizens within it, with, you know, kids and mothers who don't have to travel all around the other side of the city to go work. They can just come out their house. You know what, my job's right down the street. I can make an impact in my own community.
I'm going to piggyback off of that. When you talk about workforce development and the fact that the champions of industry need people to work for them, and we talk about like needing workforce development and needing to develop people in our community, the cavalry is not coming. No industry is coming in from out of town to save us. So one thing that we can do is create a bureaucratic environment that's not so bureaucratic. So we have like all of the different paperwork you need to do if you're trying to start a business. We need to be working with entrepreneurs to make it easier and to make it consistent from one neighborhood to the next, so that you don't have to worry, like if you want to start a business like the one we're in, all of the things that you have to, all the hoops you have to jump through. Right. Am I jumping through more hoops than the guy over on Line Avenue? Right. Is he able to go into a back room and make a deal and get things to happen easier? Right. We need a level playing field for people that want to actually do business here and start from the ground up as entrepreneurs. But another thing is, the people that we're talking about that need to be able to get through a neighborhood and get to a job easily, one thing that we can do to make that better is a more humane system of transportation. Mm-hmm. Are our buses running as well as they are? I do feel like the people that are in charge right now, De Niro, that's in charge of Sportran right now, he listens. He wants us to have better public transportation. But when you get off the bus, are you having to jump through mud to get to like a little bench instead of an actual shelter from whatever environment that you're actually sheltering from before you get on the bus? That's not humane. We can do better by people. A car should be a luxury and not a necessity. And if everyone has an equal opportunity to just get to work, we'll be doing things better. A lot of times industries are looking at not just your schools, not just your education record, they're looking at the litter in your streets. Right. They're looking at the housing for the most vulnerable people in your population. And if the people that are working for them, let's say you're bringing in jobs that pay $12 to $15 an hour. Well, that's not the highest pay. Well, I need to know the people that are already like living in environments that are gonna be taking these jobs, or they have a decent roof over their head. They have, you know, they have a humane living environment, so that they aren't having to just go find another place to pay rent just to get to the car, to get to the job every day. And I think that we've lost some opportunities because people come in here, they get from the airport, we show them the stuff they want to see, and I think they come in and say, no, I want you to take me to 7-Eleven 03. I want you to take me to 7-Eleven 01. I want to see how the poorest people at 7-Eleven 07 and see how they're living. And if we're not giving them the tenants' rights that they need, if they're not sure of their rights, and if the landlords aren't taking care of their end of the deal, not all of them, but enough of them, then no, those businesses aren't going to come here.
And she's so right about that. And that's one thing I found out, that as political leaders that we want to be in our own communities, we have to go inside the community and ask the community, what would you like in your area? Because I feel as if that a lot of people have missed that. So many people on those podiums, they're saying, what can I do? What can I do? They're not looking in those eyes. They're looking in their own eyes. They're looking in the mirror themselves. They're not looking at the population. So what we need to do is we have to go inside and have town hall meetings with everybody and find out what would you like here. Also invite people from out of town, Dallas and Georgia, Atlanta, those big places that have big entrepreneurs and people who would like to start business. Ask them to come here. Let's buy them their hotel. Let's do all those things to see if we can bring their business to our own city.
Or what about the people that are here that we got the Entrepreneur Accelerator Program at BRF? So they're training people on how to make their own business plans, and then they're introducing them to investors. And some of those investors are actually impressed with what they see. These entrepreneurs are getting those investments, and they're actually starting businesses. I went to see the Cotton Street Farms last week, and they went through the EAP, and that's a young man, Michael Billings, who is doing a hydroponic like gardening, like he is doing like produce in the middle of downtown right now, and it's because he went through that program. We didn't need Atlanta. You know, we can do our research, we can do our homework about other populations that are similar to us, Chattanooga, Savannah. There are a lot of communities that are doing the right thing. We need to actually tap into the talent we have and support that talent. But something that you said just now about like reaching out to the community, that's something you do already. And the thing is, it's not just enough to reach out to the community, it's the listening and then delivering. So you're playing basketball with the kids over at Common Ground, you're listening to them and you're delivering and you're supporting them and you're giving them consistency. A lot of people have been canvassing in communities. We had like master plan and then the Unified Development Code. People come in and like, yeah, we're having a town hall meeting and talking to you about all this stuff, and then we don't deliver. The plan just goes back on the shelf. But when people see, when you show them that you mean business, they come around and then we can have a better dialogue.
That's why people don't really vote, because they haven't been showing anything. That's why the low income neighborhoods, they don't really go out and vote. They really think that it's like a corrupt system that nothing can be fixed. And we need to, that's why me and Levette, that's why we want to be the pillar of the community and show them, you know what, things can change. You know, the system is not corrupt because we're going to change it within it.
I think the people on the seats make it corrupt. So with you speak of corruption, and how would you change that dialogue from corruption to trust?
See, that's just because, just like she said, because I can relate to them. Okay, say for instance, say if you have a particular person over a district, and one thing I want to say is, how can you bring somebody out of the trenches when you're not even from them? There's no way possible that you can bring somebody out of struggle when you're not even from struggle. So that's what I relate to. I relate to not only do I live in a suburb neighborhood, I'm from the trenches. I'm from the hood. I'm from where those people are struggling from. So I can relate on both sides. So I know where they're coming from. So if I go door to door and I'm talking to them, going inside homes, finding out solutions that they need to have a better lifestyle, I know that they can trust me.
I think it's important to be able to lead by example, but when we talk about corruption, it's not every single person, and things get complicated and tangled really easy. But the main thing is, okay, I'm a librarian. I'm all about access to information, and the information, public records belong to the public. So right now, I wish we had a stronger paper, and I wish more people read and bought the paper so the paper could do what a paper does well. And that is partially the public records request, going through all of those records from every single facet of our government. And that's some tedious, boring stuff that a lot of people don't want to have to think about. They say people don't want to know how the sausage is made, or they wouldn't eat the sausage, right? So if you are doing public records requests and you're trying to find out like what's going on with the police, the budget is open. Like you can go right now and look at the whole budget like on the city website. I think that we should have more open records. If we can just put all that information out so that anyone, journalist or just regular citizen, can get the information they need to see where the money is going, what the projects actually are, and when are these things supposed to happen, that would do a lot for us as far as corruption. I don't think that a lot of things, like we talk about fair share, well, I have a lot of questions about fair share. Who's applying for fair share? Who's applying and bidding to do these projects? And are they all getting a fair shake at delivering on that? And do they have the mechanisms in place to actually take those jobs? Can they afford to take on the big jobs that they're applying for? And are we giving them a fair shake? Are we training them to be able to do those things? Or are we sitting back thinking, well, this is just corrupt, all of these people are we, let me say it this way. Are we creating an environment where everything is cloudy for no reason, where if we just made things clearer and made things more accessible, we would have a lot less trust issues in the first place? Sometimes it's just looking that way because we've kept it fuzzy, even though there might not be anything going on behind the curtain. But people have a right to the information.
So you say that people have a right to this information. How often do you think the city council or the mayor's office should release that information for public knowledge?
They could be releasing it in real time, honestly. And that takes technology, though. There are different pieces of technology that are available to help process that data and make it available. You need a lot more bandwidth on your website to do stuff like that, too. But I think it's worth looking into. I think it's scary because a lot of people, they say a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Yeah. I think that you do have to put things out in a digestible way so people understand what they're actually looking at. But I think it's time for us to start not saying, well, we put this out here, what more do you want? But instead saying, okay, what more can we do? How much better can we do this? And like, if we're just trying, if the community sees that you're making a real effort for it, I think that we'll have better traction with that. It kind of gets into some other stuff, but Boston is a really good case study in like real-time data and open government, where they created kind of the 311. You're familiar with the 311, where you get like, it's like a dispatch. It's all the information for the city goes. If you've got a question, that's where you answer it. So let's take that from like a phone call to a website. You need to know who to call when a tree line falls at your house. You need to know who to call when there's a light out or there's a pothole or something like that, or a water main break. Well, now you go from the website to, can I just take a picture of this thing, and now I'm posting what it is to this thing, and it's geotagged exactly where it is, and now the right city worker can go fix whatever the problem is, and they can let me know in real time that this is actually getting taken care of, the same way that you order a pizza and, you know, they tell you when the pepperoni is on it and when the person's delivering it to your house.
Right.
You know, that makes it better for the worker and for the person that's making the report. Right now, when you call, you feel like you're complaining, right?
Yeah.
What if you're using an app? The studies are showing that people feel like they're helping. They don't feel like they're complaining. They feel like they're actually an active part of making it better. And I think a lot more people want to feel that way. We can take a lot of that guesswork out by just making the technology work for us.
But the places where we're from, like you say you're from Queensboro, and I'm from Queensboro, how can we, I want to ask you, how would you want to educate the people about the budget? Because a lot of people can look at data and they don't have any understanding about it. So I think we need to educate the people in it. So a lot of people just talk to just talk. They just talk all the time and they don't have any clue what is it about. So we need to educate them first before we can even show them.
I think we have to educate ourselves. I think there's a lot of stuff that's just not clear about the budget.
Right.
You know,
Sure,
like when you're talking to people that are like from the business end of it, people with MBAs, people that work in the city, the first thing they're gonna say is, oh, well, it's really complicated, right?
Sure.
You know, and I think that we could probably sit down with a team and just go through every single piece of it, and then be able to explain it to people. I think that we can do our best part to, like, you know, use our strengths to explain those things, but then where it's not our strength, where we know the person that has that talent, we work with them to turn it into like Schoolhouse Rock, you know? I don't want to pander to people, but at the same time, you know, or dumb it down, but I do want to make it digestible.
But that's the thing about it is we have to find people who want to take that time. If people, it would have happened 20 years ago.
Well,
people would have taken that time out. They would have sat down and not made it uncloud. We would have been had it done.
Well, this is the cool thing about now. Like, we're learning and we're willing to teach. And I know there's more people like that. Like Keith Hansen, that's running in District D, is like that. He works in building apps every day, and right now he's just releasing information through his website. He made an app or a map where you can search, and it shows you not just your district, but who's running in your district, and it links back to their websites, just because it could, you know. What if more people in the community, not waiting on government to do it, but what if more people in the community were just doing it? Heliopolis does that. A few other media people try to do it, but I think that Heliopolis is one that, I'm biased, I used to write for them, I'll just go ahead and put that out there. I haven't written for them in a year, but I do think that they try really hard to put information out so people understand what the process really is.
But in those same inner cities that you speak about, there are a lot of older people who are living in those areas, in those neighborhoods, who are not capable of reading, looking up, finding information. So how would you work on that and try to relay that information to those people? Just like you say, in the Queensboro area now, from the storm that just hit, those people, some people's houses are ran down, still collapsed, trees still in their yard, so they don't have the access to get to hold of their neighborhood council person or that politician to help them to get that understanding on how can you help me fix this.
I think that the ultimate way to do it is to be able to engage with the neighborhood associations if the neighborhood associations are energetic. And I think that what the neighborhood associations could be is like a perfect fielding house, like for your next group of young leaders. So you've got somebody like Demetrius Norman, right? Y'all know Demetrius? He's working really hard in Queensboro. He does a lot of tech. He's an engineer. He's so smart. And he's someone that kind of helps spearhead going in and doing some of the cleanup from the storm in Queensboro. So if you've got someone like that, that is working with people that are older, that are like respected in the community and are part of that neighborhood association, he can cover more ground quickly, and then he can be their voice. But it can't just be one. You need like 10 Demetriuses. And I think though, if you can engage young people like that, instead of thinking that they have to move out here to West Shreveport or to like Pines Road, they might actually want to invest in the community, be a part of that community, and turn that community around. And now you've got not gentrification, but incremental growth in the neighborhood that we thought was going to die.
So we're gonna take a quick break, and when we get back, we're gonna get into crime and what each candidate wants to do in their particular district. You guys are watching Social Goats. So we're back, guys, with our candidates for City Council, Levette and Quinton. We wanted to get into crime, which Shanta actually has a question for our candidates about the crime in our city.
What do you all think will help with crime? I've seen a lot of people say that they feel like the Shreveport Police Department has failed us and that the current mayor has failed us as far as crime. What do you all think that we can do to tackle that?
Oh, I would think my first option would be implementing substations within the communities, just like fire stations. Just having that presence within the community can be so impactful. Just seeing, say if you have a person that's a drug dealer, you're doing all these bad things, they look across the street, oh Lord, what am I about to do now? So I think substations all throughout the communities of Shreveport, just sitting there and being a presence where people can come if they need help, anything can be very impactful for that. That's one of mine.
I agree with that. I think raising the police presence in communities is a good thing. I feel like we didn't see it when police were on bikes in Highland, the perception of safety was higher. It might not have, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. I'm sure that arrests did go up for crimes, especially drugs, but I think that the perception of safety, because you see the police, makes a big difference. But what I want to know more about as far as our police is, do they feel supported by their leadership? And that's going to be the police chief as well as the mayor. Do they feel supported? And I think that we need to do something that LaToya Cantrell said in a debate when she was debating to be mayor of New Orleans. The people who are boots on the ground, front line, are the people that really know the job, and they will let you know exactly if they feel like they have the leadership to support them so they can go out and risk their lives every day to do that job. Now, beyond that, crime isn't just about reacting to crime, it's about prevention, and that is education and jobs.
Yes, I agree. What do you think that we can do also with proper training? I like a few months back, I seen there was a situation where a police officer with a young man, and we see that the police is just awful across this country, and I really would like Shreveport to not be a part of that as far as the police, mistreating people of color or just mistreating young people, because sometimes police think young people are a threat when they're not.
And that's the thing about it, that's the thing my culture deals with, and they always talk to me about that, and it has to come from 50-50, like I always tell them. And it comes from the community, and it also comes from law enforcement. So I would say the police officers, community relationship is the #1 key. That's something I study in criminal justice right now, community relationships. So if you have a 15-year-old boy, 16-year-old boy who parents are telling them don't trust the police officers, don't do these things, what do you expect that young man to do? He doesn't trust them at all. So what the police officer has to do, he has to go inside the community and go to doors, tell them how you doing, go door to door, tell them things. You know what, I'm not that type of dude, I'm not the perception that everybody tells me that I am. I'm different. So I feel as if the officers, they go in, they make a big difference. I really think they can change the perception of people.
I agree with that to a degree. I feel a lot of police will say to you that we've got community liaison officers, and that is a good job to have people that show you the friendly face, the serve and protect face of the police. But de-escalation training is something that will go a long way. I think that the sheriff's department has actually been trained in cultural sensitivity and de-escalation. And we've had some really embarrassing things happen over the last 5 years where a gentleman who with special needs got shot in someone's yard because we weren't, the reaction was so fast to shoot or to tackle or whatever, instead of actually redirecting and trying to de-escalate a situation. I'll disclose now, I am the proud daughter of a retired SPD lieutenant. And when you see things happen nationally, he'll be quick to tell me that what his training told him the way to react to something was. And that man, 22 years in the job, and pulled his gun once and shot it into the ground, and that was enough to get his assailant under control.
That's awesome.
So I think that there are a lot more stories like that than what we see in the news. But I agree with you. I don't want Shreveport to be the next one on the national news.
See, I'm originally from, I spent a lot of time, I've lived all over, but I've spent a lot of time in Chicago and New Orleans. Those are two big cities. And Chicago is known as Chirac. You know, I really would not like for Shreveport to have and the murder rate, the crime is, it's getting to be ridiculous. The crime rate is skyrocketing. And Shreveport is not a small city, but it is small. You know, it has a small town feel to it.
And then we've got all of the urban crime without enough of the urban amenities.
Yes.
I have friends that say that to me all the time, and Highland is definitely a piece of that. We talk a lot about what we see in different inner city urban communities as far as crime. If you go on social media to the neighborhood groups in Highland and South Highland and Broadmoor, you see where people are getting robbed, but then you have to ask, well, were your doors actually locked? No, nobody had a right to come into your car and steal out of it. But if they know that you got a habit of leaving your doors unlocked and leaving a gun in there, you're setting yourself up for a failure. We've got to figure out why people want guns so bad. We need to figure out why we have such high crime of other types of crime too, other than just violent crime. And a lot of it does go back to what are we doing to prevent it? How are we educating people? Are we putting people on a road straight from school to prison? Are they in a cycle that they can't break because it's what they're learning at home? How much of this is a mental health issue? And how much of the mental health issue is being exacerbated throughout the community? I work in an environment where people are so thankful that I'm nice to them, that lets you know that there are other transactions across the counter in other places are not kind. Like you go to the bank and if someone's not smiling, you've got my money and you are being rude to me. If I have that many transactions in a day, and we're not talking about a criminal, we're talking about someone that's just trying to get through life, that has a family and works hard and is just doing their things, and they are thankful that they're coming to me just to do a fax or something. It shouldn't be like that. We shouldn't have that kind of tension on top of everything else. Right. So just all of that to say, we need to address mental health in this community. We do need to address education. We need to address bias in all of the situations that we have bias in, as far as just kids in school. You know that kids in school, black kids, get not accused of, but get assumed to be older than they are. They get harsher punishments. We know that in medicine right now that black women are thought to have a higher tolerance for pain. Right now, we've got the highest infant mortality rate in Shreveport in 3 of our poorest zip codes, higher than anywhere else in the state, and it's at a 3-to-1 for black women over white women. You can't tell me that doesn't go back to toxic stress, which goes back to institutional racism. Oops, I think I just hit a hot button.
You did. I'm also a CASA worker, and I believe that mental health is something that really needs to be addressed. You know, there are, you know, in this area, there is a lot of stress. We really need to educate. Just college isn't for everyone. I've learned that. But, you know, teach people, hey, college may not be for you. And to be back on what you all said about creating jobs in the so-called poor zip codes, people have so many talents. You know, there's people that know how to do hair. You know, get yourself legal. If you're gonna cook and sell dinners, get yourself legal. I'm one of those paranoid type people. I'm gonna have insurance for anything I do. You know, if I eat and I get sick, you know, or if you eat from me and you get sick, hey, my insurance gonna cover it. You know, and we really should help people get training for their talent.
Well, and the good news is we've got a kitchen incubator that's going to be coming to the choice neighborhoods. There was a $24 million grant that was announced just yesterday, and that is going to be going for housing and to improve the Allendale area, which is just adjacent to my district. I think that that's a good thing. I think that a lot of people are going to be able to hone their skills and actually support themselves as entrepreneurs because of stuff like that. But it all just goes back to say that we cannot take a single issue in one direction on any of the issues we have in this community. Everything's got to get hit from multiple directions, but that's okay because we can multitask. And just to go ahead and clear up where I was going with institutional racism, I'm not crying racism on anything. What I'm saying is everything is complicated. These are complex issues. We can't just say that more police is going to fix it. We can't say that any one industry is going to come in and give us all these jobs and that's going to fix it. We have to start taking care of each other as a community. And we can't wait for the church to do it either. We have to go to church, we have to do what we're going to do through the church, and then we have to leave, and instead of going into our garages and our air conditioning, we've got to go back out in the streets and make sure that we're being the compassionate community members that we need to be.
And something that he also said, you know, about educating people on resources. Like a lot of people that may want to own a home, they don't know that there's happy money. There's just money sitting up in Shreveport, you know, for its neighborhoods like Queensboro, Cedar Grove, and people want to, and they don't know about these funds. There's thousands of dollars, and they'll give people like $5,000 to move, and you find someone that wants to improve a neighborhood and be productive in that neighborhood. Hey, there's funds for that.
A homeowner is going to have a lot more pride in the community than a renter.
Yes.
And right now in Highland, there may be becoming funds available through a foundation that like they won't help you necessarily with a loan, but if you're able to get a loan and you want to fix up a house, like a historic house in Highland, then they can help you with a low interest loan for your repair work. Think about if we can actually start, like, instead of like flipping a house just to sell to somebody else, you've actually got a family in that house. It could be like the shows that you're watching on HGTV where you've got people that are like investing in property, getting it up to standards that people want to live in, instead of having to always be like 20 minutes from where your job is if you work downtown. You don't have to always be up and down the highway. You can bike to work, you know, you can ride a bus easily, you can walk. You actually want to be in part of like be in a neighborhood that feels like an urban environment. But what if these foundations say, okay, this is working in Highland, let's do this in Queensboro, let's do this in Caddo Heights, you know? And at the same time, I don't want to have to wait on a foundation to do it. Like, what other revenue streams do we have? Like, who wants to invest so they can help someone else get a leg up, so they can actually get that happy money, be able to like actually like have a pathway to home ownership in the core communities in Cedar Grove too, because if we don't have a center, we have a donut with a hole. So everyone's living out here on Burt Coons all the way around, and you got nothing. All you're doing is driving up and down I-20 and I-49 and going, ooh, keep your windows up. We don't want to stop in here. Make sure you get gassed up before you get off Pines Road. No, we don't want that. We want you to be able to go into every single neighborhood in this city, take your family over to Eddie's, take your family over to Real Barbecue, take your family to the places that are invested in our community and feel safe and happy and feel like it's the right place for you to be. When they come in from Houston and Atlanta, have them going, ooh, y'all got what? You know, that's what I want to see.
And that's the thing about it is, like, I have to ask myself, are we really investing in our community? Because we got $24 million, but it's kind of funny is they did that when election was about to come back around. And that's very sad.
Oh, Quinton, that's an easy thing to say, but the thing is, no. Grant funding is on a schedule. So this grant is something that they've been working on like in pieces for like over 5 years. They've applied for several different grants. Like the first one was a planning grant just so they could do a bigger plan. They've been doing studies over Allendale, different groups. Like there's like, it's not just the mayor's office. It's like 20 different groups that are working on that. But that goes back to what we talk about with transparency, because there's so little transparency. We have so little openness about how these processes work. But I'll tell you, just because I've had my ear to the ground on this one for a long time. I was on the Metropolitan Planning Commission.
That's why we need people like you to explain these types of things. I'm a conspiracy theorist.
I know. It's so easy to go there.
Not supposed to happen like that.
There are plenty of times when your suspicions might be so close to what's really happening, and it's so frustrating. But then there are these times when there are some really hardworking people that have been working. They get as many of the community nonprofits together as they can. They said, this is what we're trying to do. We want to revitalize this community. At one point they came to, and there's video of this, they came to the Metropolitan Planning Commission back when I was still on that board, and they said, we want you guys to say that you support us writing this grant. And if you support us writing this grant, it makes our application stronger. But if you're gonna say no, we're just gonna remove it because we don't want that negativity on the grant. Well, we looked at the grant and we looked at the map of where they were working, and it became a hot button topic. And we were like, well, and so they just pulled it. They were like, we're not gonna even ask you guys to like come on board with this. So you got like the choice neighborhoods, you've got the Shreveport Common area, you've got like Community Renewal, Community Foundation, all these groups working that see this opportunity. I think Southern is involved with it too, with the incubator, with Darren Dixon. You got all of these people that see this opportunity, and this is one of those cases where I think it is just a matter, well, that was a convenience. But the thing is, and sure, it was well timed, but honestly, even if it was, if the lady's taking a win, let the lady take a win, you know? But it wasn't just her by herself. It's been a lot of people working for a long time on it.
But I really think that if we really want to help our communities, it can be done. Because like I told you a minute ago, when we went out to eat, the man said, Quinton's going to take time. He said, I see that you're passionate. I see that you love what you're doing. But I said that you said that 20 years ago. Like I said, 20 years ago, we still have neighborhoods who are feeling, it's crazy. It's crazy because I'm from those environments. I mean, my grandmother lives in that environment. So that hurts my heart knowing that my grandmother had to sit there and her on our own porch seeing killings. My own friend got killed right down the street at the cage.
I agree with you.
So the money is there. I don't know that.
Well, this one's federal. So when we're talking about federal funding, when you write a grant like that, it is so complex. And what I'm noticing now is there are a whole lot of people that go, $24 million, ooh, what we gonna do with it? No, y'all. That application was written, it's already, everything that's supposed to happen is already spent. Right. And if the federal government didn't trust that we had a good idea, they wouldn't be giving us the money. This is one of those times when you can say they are going to report for every penny out of that, and this is a good thing. We want to be able to be accountable for how the money gets spent. We're not going to be sitting here worried about graft, worrying that somebody's just going to get theirs. There are plenty of times when that is going to be something that we have to worry about. But this is one where I think that we can get the information ourselves. We can ask the people that worked on that grant. We say, hey, we just want to see your application to see what is going to get implemented because we're curious about it. We don't have to wait for the newspaper to tell us. We don't have to wait for the mayor's office to do a press conference. We can go directly to them and say, hey, can we just see what you're working on? We're very interested in it. And then we can report back. We don't even wait to be on the city council to do that. And if we have criticism, we can be honest with that too.
But the only thing I'm saying is I don't want to see the next 24 mil be here the next 10 years, 15 years for the next neighborhood.
It doesn't have to be. I think that what we can do is we can say, okay, you all have been working really hard on this. What is successful from what you're doing, and how can we take those successes back to another neighborhood? And this is something you said to me, and I had to repeat it back to you so you know what you said and how genius it was. You said, I see that SPAR has all of these rec centers and they're doing this stuff, but they should be doing what we're doing over at Common Ground. They should be providing, like, if not paying for, providing volunteer mentors to be in the community. Y'all have an X factor and you know what works and you think it could be scalable, and that's genius.
And that's one thing I'm glad you brought that up. Is that I talked this to one person that works for SPAR, and he said, man, why are you just trying to take our jobs away? You're trying to do all these things. And so I'm not trying to do that. I want you guys to work together with nonprofits that are doing the same thing. But the thing I feel as if is that these nonprofits, they're doing so much more than SPAR. The only thing SPAR is a rec center that people come and play basketball. They're not implementing knowledge. They're not changing the culture. They're not doing anything to change the area around them.
Well, what we have to do is start with, well, what's their mission? And if that's all their mission is, then, you know.
It seems to me it's no mission.
Well,
that's from I was in SPAR since I was 13 to 18 years old. I was in SPAR.
And you've experienced this as someone who's been in it.
Yeah, I've been in it. So I feel as if it's no mission because I've looked at my friends, and 3 of my friends, they got killed wearing SPAR with me. So
so we can say from your personal narrative that there is room for improvement.
Oh, yeah, real, for sure. Yes, we just have people I feel as if we just need to take our hands, get them in the mud, because a lot of people don't like to get their hands dirty. We got to get our hands dirty to save our kids. It's about our kids. And
it's not just, I was saying this to someone recently since I work with teens, like, we talk about youth and being disenfranchised. It's not just about poor kids in the inner city. Yeah. Poor kids have their own struggles, but you know what? What is it? Idle hands or what? The devil's workshop. And you can get into the devil's business in the suburbs. In a gated community, you know, we need to make sure.
Curious.
Yeah, we need to be. Anybody can be curious and bored, so we need to be providing opportunities across the city for all of our kids.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Every community.
And speaking on that, since you guys have been talking about your community and different things that's around the city in general, what specifically do you guys plan to do in your district? Like, what do you plan to do? What are your goals to do? Like, I heard you guys speak about different things that you guys see or want done in general, but what do you specifically plan to do with your district and you as well?
So one thing that I'm bringing to the table is that even if I don't win this election, I still will do this. It's a thing called bloom. So y'all remember when I said that that I referred to my city as a dying plant, that it needed nourishment, it needed all these things. So me and my friends that support me in this race, they said, how about we call it bloom? So what we want to do is we want to get 20 to 40 kids in local neighborhood schools and put them in committees over their community. So we're going in doing projects, cleanup projects, going in, talking to kids. They're being mentors to kids in elementary schools. So what I want to do is I want to start, how would I call it? I want to start an army, a great army for street, operation chain of command. I want to create an operation to the point that we're taking over the whole Shreveport, and it's done. Not only is it being done by, now I say older people. Now
it's points of view when he says that.
It's not only done by the older generation. It's being done by kids that are in the same age as me, and they want to see a difference in their own community. Because that's what I think that we lack. We lack so many kids that go to high school, go to college, and boom, they're gone. They're going straight to Dallas. They're going straight to Atlanta. They're not coming back and pouring into their schools. So pouring into the community. So right now, I want to get the kids. I want to show them what it's like to go into the communities and show them what it's like to pour knowledge into kids and what love really is. Because money is not going to change everything. Your time being spent with a kid can change so many things. Because I've experienced that each and every day. Because I work at Common Grounds.
And I think that can work. I lived in Lafayette area for a little while, and that's one thing that I was impressed by. People, if they left, they came back and poured into their community. There's a lady, she opened up a barber college, and they open up businesses, and you know, they're even that community, they have like grants that the businesses get together to, well, scholarships for the kids that are going to college and give back. I mean, they have a lot going on, and I was like, oh wow, you know, this is awesome to be such a small town. You know, I think their population is only probably maybe 20,000-30,000.
And that's what I'm saying. Me and Levette, we want to be that void. We want to be that void with all the negativity. We want to be right there to stop everything.
So one thing that I work on right now is called Reform Shreveport. One thing we do is we bring in speakers that talk about planning and how cities develop and grow and how strong cities develop and grow, the choices that they make. And part of that is to educate like lay people that are not planners and engineers and architects on how we can hold leadership accountable so that we can actually have the kind of community we want. When we're not having speakers come in, because you know, talk is cheap without action, we go out and we do projects. And one project we've done that's worked really well was actually having to work with SPAR. It started as a park cleanup. And what we've done is we've sort of saved Highland Park from the erosion that they have. I don't know if y'all ever go into Highland Park at Gilbert and Olive, how it's muddy and like the hills just kind of wearing out. We started working on terracing to kind of save, to mitigate all of that erosion, to keep, to slow down the water so that you could actually have grass grow so the trees could live. And it's not just about that part of it. We ended up opening up a conversation through our cleanups and working and playing in the dirt with SPAR. They encouraged us to keep working in the park. We do the permitting that we're supposed to do, but from there, and we work with a lot of the community, but from there we start canvassing the neighborhood. So you got a big tennis court there, right? Nobody's playing tennis, but I see kids over down the street playing basketball in the yard or in the street, or they're jumping the fence to the school that's closed down to play basketball over there. So we start canvassing and just talking to people in the neighborhood about what they want in the park. We're like, hey, we know that there is this money. We want to know what y'all want to see the SPAR do. SPAR has some idea about what they want the park to be, and they can kind of figure that out, but we want to hear what would make the park usable for the people that live around the park. Because if that park has value, guess what? Your property has value. And then people see that we're doing the work and they're more interested in talking to us. I would want to take the kinds of projects and the way that we communicate with the city already, and the way we communicate with the neighbors, and do that in all of my district. And that way it's not just me and my friends that are doing this, but we're training another group of involved community leaders to to be invested. It's kind of the same thing you're talking about.
Because you have to invest into the next generation.
Right, that's what
you have to.
You have to. Like,
you have
kids
to.
are our future.
But if we can engage with the kids because they are our future. But if we can engage with the grandparents that are just burned out, like that city's not doing anything, they're not doing anything over there. Like if we can get them to see that we can change, they'll come back out like, oh, okay. It's kind of like what Community Renewal did with Allendale, with like, okay, what's my Miss Lady's name? She has that first garden, the first community garden. They had Miss Rosie. That garden saved part of the neighborhood because people started coming out and caring, and they basically said we care about each other and we don't want the gun violence anymore. And Allendale's got one of the safest records as far as gun violence in the city. Well, if we can get people to say, oh, we are changing things, oh, they are cleaning up, oh, they do care, now people are out on the porch again. Now people are like involved. Now you feel safe with the kids riding their bikes in the street. Now the kids are not playing basketball in the street, they're playing on the basketball court. Because guess what? All the neighbors said, we don't really need a tennis court. Can we get some basketball courts? We're totally down with that. You know? So I want to see that level of engagement happen, because I think it's good for the kids that are the future. But let's go ahead and get grandma back on board with it too. Let's get people that are pre-retirement back on board with it too. Let's get people who want to like raise their children in the neighborhood and go to the neighborhood school and not feel like, oh no, we got to go to a magnet school or a private school. No, we can go right down the street.
It goes back to what you said about when people see you have things going on, then they'll get involved.
Right. You have to show them. You can't just tell them. I want to show more people how to show more people.
Question about, and there's been a lot of talk about development, economic development, bringing in programs, and we've mentioned several cities as examples: Chattanooga, Nashville, Lafayette. Even they've got great things going down there. I want to touch on, because we're talking about the youth, and no shade to your age, Quinton, and we're talking about the older generation and what they want to see. But as far as attacking that middle, I'm someone who went to college, left. I want to come back to Shreveport. I want my business as a proprietor of a small business. I want to do my business here. But the market that is my customer base doesn't reside in Shreveport and Mass, because you don't have the fun downtown district. You don't have the types of businesses that pull in the people that want to purchase my services. You don't have a year-round farmers market. You don't have arts districts that are vibrant and have things going on daily. So especially Levette, with you campaigning to be to redo this downtown area, what plans do you have to really attack? And I know the term is typically the millennial generation, but no, just forward thinking and forward living people. What do you have planned to attract those people?
I think one thing that will help is consistency in our planning and zoning practices, consistency in the paperwork. You off camera mentioned something about like small business development that we're lacking in, and from there just making a stable environment for entrepreneurs to want to do business here. And then I think the next step is going to have to be incremental development. We can't just go all in. Like, I don't want to get completely into the billion dollar project on Cross Bayou. Smart development, I am for smart growth and smart development, common sense growth, common sense development. But we have got to start doing slow and steady. We can't just think things are going to happen overnight. And when we get frustrated, we can't just give up. Because the moment we start chasing the next big new thing, what are we doing? We're ignoring what's already a problem here. It's going to be that incremental growth. And I think that what we have to attract is something they call the urban pioneer. I think we need to change our idea of what the urban pioneer looks like. It does not look like someone coming to like gentrify your neighborhood. What I'm talking about is that first level of people that are bold and brave enough to live in a neighborhood that needs some love, and to bring those neighborhoods back. And then those people are your target audience. Those are the people that are going to be buying your services. Those are the people who live a little bit on, they live for that fire, for that new fun thing, and they would like to not have to always go to Dallas for it. These aren't the people that go to Dallas and go to a Dave and Buster's. These are people that go to Dallas and try the next Korean fusion, Spanish, tapas, whatever thing.
Exactly. That's a great example.
Right.
I do most of my marketing here. Most of my customers are in Dallas, Houston. So.
But I think that we have to create that environment on a small scale and not expect it to look like Disneyland overnight. But when people see where you're going, they want to get on board.
Well, we want to give you guys an opportunity, basically give a wrap up or a charge to our audience. What are you guys working on or expect them to do on election day? Like a little wrap up about your campaign and your ideology. But basically wrap up your campaign of what you feel and give your stance or your platform on your community, your district.
Okay. Well, like I told you, man, even though that my age can be shunned, I'm very passionate about what I'm doing. I'm very passionate about people and my culture, and I want to change so many lives with what I'm doing. First off, I want to show kids, the whole point of this is showing kids in my culture that it doesn't matter what age you are, you can do anything that you want to do in life. And with my platform is economic development and stopping crime, because crime is something that I experienced. I don't know if you have, but I have with my friends, and that's something that I want to stop in my city. But we can't stop it, but like Levette said, we can only prevent it. And that's something that I'm trying to do right now. And I want you guys to be on board with me. I want you guys to trust me in my District E. Believe in me. Don't look at my age. Look at my passion. And look at my heart. And I love you guys. Thank you.
Good job. I will say first, my website is levettefuller.com, LEVETTEFULLER. You can see my entire platform there and keep up with my campaign there. I am for sustainable growth, sustainable environment. I want Shreveport to be a safe city that people want to be a part of. I'm also for transparency and open records and using technology to engage our community so that they can see the community come to shape the way that they want it to be. I'm for vibrancy. I'm for vibrancy in my core community, but also for the city as a whole. And I look forward to, in the future, getting to work on the dais with Quinton and with the rest of the legislators to do the job that we need to be done.
And also, just because we classify as one district, don't think that we won't be pouring our hands into other districts. Because that's the thing about it. We're a team. City council should be a team. It shouldn't just be, I'm on District A, I'm on District B. No, we are all one team, and we're all trying to work together as one to implement everything that's necessary for our community to grow.
And there you have it. As he said, we're one team, one goal in this thing. Today, with the live talk radio, once again, we appreciate you guys coming through. Hopefully, we get to talk to you again the closer election time comes
That would be
around.
awesome.
Man, I would love for you guys to come back and sit down and talk more and get your ideas forefront to your voters and speak about it. Don't keep those thoughts in your head. Let's talk about it. Let's bring it out. Let's have that conversation. And once again, we are the Social Ghosts, and we thank you. Bye.